Billboard serve the year.
All righty, so we are recording, correct?
We are.
We are. So let's bring this meeting to order for February 16th. Welcome to the planning board meeting. Belgrade Planning Board meeting for February 16th. We'll first do a roll call.
Rich is up.
Oh, and Rich is joined up there. Okay, so we'll do a roll call here. So Pete Sargent. Yeah, here. Present. George Seal.
Here.
Craig Alexander. And Peter Rushton. And then virtually present, it looks like Rich Baker is with us. So Rich, help us out if we are moving around and want to see your hand or have a comment, and let us know, right? So thanks, Rich.
And we have the other people identified.
And then, please, others who are with us, could you identify yourselves? Virtually. So it looks like A.E. Hodgson is here. So
Jeff Allen.
Good evening.
hi there. And then iPad AP.
This is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. Looks like KBA.
You're muted.
James Beasley with Kevin Brown Architecture in support of Jenny Patinga and the AE Hudson project.
All right, thank you. And we do have guests here too. Want to make sure we do get your names for the record. So maybe if you don't mind, just mention now.
Sure. Andrew and Kimberly Dallas.
Hi, Dallas family.
Shane Chaput.
Thanks. Thanks, Shane.
I'm John Priestley.
John Priestley, hello.
Mark Purvis.
Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's get into our meeting. So we've gone through everybody who's here. New business. The first agenda item is applicant Jeff Allen of AE Hodgson for Jennifer. Is it Pettinga? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, correct. Good job. Pettinga.
Pettinga, thank you.
Thank you.
So you proposed for your property at 100 Pine Beach Road on map 42, lot 12, that the purpose is to demolish the existing structure and replace with a new camp, correct?
That's right. Yeah, so we have some plans here that show what the camp is now, or where the structure on the property now. And then I can share my screen and perhaps show you that. And then we have also some renderings of what we're looking to do with the camp once we have the land available.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So this is a non-conforming structure, non-conforming lot, is that correct, Hans?
Correct.
Like it's about a half an acre? And is it a non-conforming structure?
Proximity to the lake is about 2 feet.
Okay,
From the waterfront. The existing structure.
okay, great, Jeff, go for it. And
I'm actually not able to share. You've got to enable me to do
okay,
that.
stand by. Hans, would that be something you can help him with? Or
Okay, yeah, sure. Sure, what are we sharing?
well, allow him to share his screen,
Go
so.
to share screen here.
So. I'm not sure where it
Share
is.
Whiteboard option?
Nope.
Try to share screen on the.
So,
To,
Go to
think
advanced
we-
setting under share screen. If you go to advanced settings under share screen, they'll be able to let other people share from there, I believe.
advanced, gonna share. And,
so at this point, we're sharing our screen with you.
okay.
Right. So stop sharing. And if you stop sharing on the bottom of your screen, there should be a share screen setting with a little arrow next to it.
Yeah.
Where do you
Is it advanced sharing options?
advanced sharing options? And then you should be able to let other people share their screen from there.
Okay,
All participants,
Sure.
we can start sharing. All again, I guess?
Yeah.
There, I think that did it.
That's
Are
it.
you able?
All right.
Okay.
yeah.
Enclose that. Well done, Hans.
Tell me what-
It's okay, it's a lot of, go ahead.
All right, so this is the site plan that's there now. There are a couple large buildings that front right on Great Pond. As you mentioned earlier, it's about property is about 0.43 acres, just under half an acre, and the whole thing is in the shoreland zone. So we've broken it up here actually into a couple different bands. The lake is over here on the far left, and so you can see the yellow part of the drawings here are the parts of the existing buildings that are within 25 feet of the lake. The green areas of the building are the parts of the building that are within 75 feet. And the only other, there's a small shed right here, sort of in the middle of the property that's set back around 75, a little more than 75 feet, but less than 100. And then, of course, the most remote from the lake that we could be is with the existing septic system that we're going to reuse here that's up in this area. So what the plan is if we can get approval, is to tear down all these buildings that are there. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to go out and take a look at the site. It's not particularly attractive. I have some pictures I can share if you really want to see them. But this is an older camp that's in the center here. The previous owner built on a large barn area, or started to build on a large barn area here. Never really was completed and closed in. And then they have a small camp over on the south side of the property here, down at the bottom of the screen. So it's, it just they never got it completed. So what we would like to do is, this is the footprint that we're looking at now. And you can see the red lines are the footprint. The blue lines here are the eve lines of the existing camp. And so what we're proposing now is set back quite a bit more. It's still close because we don't really have a whole lot of room to come and go on there. But it's set back more from the water, and it's a little bit smaller structure compared to what's there. We're still within 75 feet of the lake, and there's a small shed back here. This is a septic system that's not drawn to scale, I don't think there. I guess we have some renderings now of what this is going to look at that James put together. Some renderings. This is the back of it, looking at it from Pine View Drive. It's kind of facing, the main part of the lake is facing the lake. I'm sorry, that's the east elevation. This is one side, and this is the south elevation. So this is what you'd see from the edge. And then this is the north elevation, this side of it. And of course, the last one is what will look out onto the lake. Lots of glass, very bright, very modern style, very clean lines. So I think it's a very attractive change. It's very different, but it's very attractive. And also in these drawings, one thing we'd looked at in the past with some other projects like this that I'd presented on, you want to be sure that you're not too tall next to the lake. And this side view is probably very good to look at. This, I don't know if you can see my cursor. I don't have a large cursor here, but this is right on the lake side, which is the right-hand side of the top drawing. That's the porch roof right now. And this is the back of the barn, I believe, that's up here. So you can see within that first setback from the lake, we're quite a bit shorter, quite a bit more in compliance with the project. As you get back toward the property, we're a couple feet shorter. I think some of the later drawings will actually show dimensions on these to show more clearly how high we are. This one right over here is the existing building was 27, and this one is showing us as being about 23 feet 8 to this peak, which is the highest peak on the property here. So it's, you know, it's a much more compact structure than what was there. Let me see. I'll go.
Thank you, Jeff. We may have some questions for you.
Okay. And this elevation also shows the outline of the existing structure as seen from the lake with that 27-foot elevation here and the new roof level at 24 or 23.8 here.
Great. So the square foot of the existing structure is what? I'm gonna.
I think I had it in the application. The existing structure, the structures are 4359 square feet for structures, and we're proposing 4281. It's a little bit smaller, around 78 square feet smaller. This is the last page of the application packet that shows that. And this is including all the sheds and other areas. And that is the area at the drip line, not at the footprint on the ground.
Okay, thank you. All right. And this is a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming
Yes,
lot.
that's correct.
And one of the first things I wanted to find out about was the amount of square footage of unvegetated surface within the shoreland zone, including all structures. And it looks like you've done that calculation and have set forth in the application. So it's something on the order of.
And I did that using, I should put it in italics because it is sort of an estimate. It's using Google Earth, and I did remove a tree that they say they're going to remove in the driveway area. So this is not inclusive of the tree.
Okay, thank you, Hans. So Hans, are we looking at this correctly on the shoreland fact sheet that the hard surface area is roughly 39.35%?
That's including the complete right of way to the road, the shared part, everything.
Okay,
According to our measurements, the existing structure, all the hardscaping, the structures and driveway came total to 7677 square feet, which was 40.3% of the property. What we're proposing now is about 7,500 square feet, including the driveway, and that's around 39%. So we're about a 1% less than the existing.
go ahead.
Updated that number from his information.
Okay, thanks. So for me, when I saw those numbers that jumped out at me, because my impression was that according to our ordinance, no, it shall not exceed 20% of the lot area covered. So I'm not sure. Was that conveyed to them? Yeah, just going with it, okay.
I mean, it's kind of what it is now is a big open area. Because of all this structure. There is concrete foundation under the structure.
Okay,
And like you said, it was built, probably not completed, not cared for, so it's in rough shape.
yep.
I have a question. When was it built? Before the shoreline zoning law went into effect or after?
I'm assuming before, because the foundation under it goes about 8 feet to the shoreline.
And because that's a big difference. If it's built before the shoreline zoning went into effect. It's not always
Scrolling through the,
right.
Yeah, this is a picture of what we have now. This is the barn that was started and not completed. This likely was the original house in the center. And then this is the home that the homeowner was living in at the time. This house and the barn are in pretty rough shape. So I don't know if anybody's lived there for some time. And then this is the neighbor over here.
I had a question there. The condominium down there in that area, how close is this property about the condominium or is it well away from? Where's the condominium, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know if there are any condominiums nearby. I think they're all single family homes in the neighborhood.
Down there in that area?
Yeah,
There's a condominium down there. So I just want to know, is it next to this, does it abut this particular piece of property? If it
No.
doesn't, then you don't have to worry about it. If it
Yeah,
does, and then you'd have to, you have to notify the condominium people, I would think. I haven't talked to any people down here, but there are a few.
I don't believe it does about the condos. There are single family camps on both sides.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Jeff, this is George Seal. It looked, I can't quite make it out on the drawings that we had, the paper drawings that we have. Could you go back to your site drawing that shows the proposed new structures? Is that do you have 10-foot setbacks from the property lines?
Yes, yeah, we do. This is the property line out here, and this dashed line here, I believe, is the setback.
Okay, thank you. I
Peter,
just can't make it out. I didn't bring my magnifying glass.
Peter, I've got a question. Rich Baker here.
Go ahead, Rich.
My understanding is that these are two different structures that you're starting with, correct? They're not attached.
There's a breezeway that connects them. It's kind of a walkway, a covered walkway between them. This is the larger one is the camp itself, which has 2 bedrooms. And then this area where the owners, the actual living space was before, is like a 2-bedroom bunkhouse with a small living room. It does not have a kitchen but it does have a bathroom there. So there's a bathroom here and a couple of bathrooms in the main structure.
Okay, but they are attached by a breezeway currently.
The existing ones are not.
Okay,
I'm sorry, maybe they are. Let me look at the pictures again.
Yeah, it's got a screen, I believe.
the picture doesn't look like to me they're attached.
There is an attaching deck right by the water that goes from the guest house. I mean, it's loosely done, but it still exists on the
Yeah.
other side of that screen porch. I mean,
This
it's
is
there. You can see that's the connection that we're similar repeating in the new project.
I have a difficult time seeing it's attached to another building, but the reason I asked the question is if these are two different structures to begin with, and they're both being torn down, we have to look at each structure individually to see whether they can be moved back to the greatest practical extent. And I'm not sure if they are attached, it's probably not an issue because we have to consider them one structure and but if they're not attached, we have to look, I think we need, my feeling is we need to look at the existing house that's being used as to whether that can be moved back further than where it's being rebuilt at.
Rich, I think this is the area here that's connected. This is the owner's house and it's just rotted away. This is the threshold going out to it, but this is the sub base of the connection that was there before, the deck that connected them. The foundation for that's now just kind of rotted out. I think it rotted out and they took the deck boards off.
And I want to say there was a roof on it when I saw it.
Rich, this is George. You're not saying that we can't look at whether or not the whole structure, which, you know, is almost like at least two or three structures all put together, can't be moved back greater than it's already proposed, are you? I mean, because that's a question I have, is just looking at the photographs, it looks like there may be an opportunity to move it back further than is being proposed.
Well, certainly this is no different than if there was a house there and a shed down by the water and they tear the shed down. We have to look at the shed meeting the setback to the greatest practical extent. We don't look at whether the house can be moved back. I mean, if they're tearing it down, yes, but they don't get to just stick the shed attach it to the side of the house if it can be moved back further.
Right.
I don't think we can move it back too much, Rich, because on the drawing here, this is the septic tank right here. So, you know, there's not a lot of room you could move back and still be able to reuse the septic tank.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm not saying for sure we can move it back. I just out that I think we need to look at that. Or it's when I saw what appeared to be not attached structures, it clearly struck me as we have two structures, both being torn back. When they're rebuilt, they have to meet the setback to the greatest practical extent. And I'm not sure that I would, the planning board may recall, we had an application not too long ago where a structure was attached by, well, what we concluded was not an attachment significant enough to call it all one structure. It was all, I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was about a couple months ago. So anyway.
Yeah.
As my
Glenn Metzlowski, right?
I think it was, yeah. The guy decided not to come back. It had to do with the guy who wanted make a bigger deck than what was already there.
Yep, I remember that.
So can I got a follow-up.
Go ahead.
So it sounds to me like this connection between the two buildings, main building, the bigger buildings, we have to figure out, this board has to determine whether or not that is a connection, you know, legitimate connection or not. I don't quite, you know, do we have to do a site visit? We're gonna have to make that determination. We have to go out and do a site visit and take a look at it, right?
That may be,
I would not be opposed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that we would need. I don't see how else we can determine whether what's proposed is being moved back to the greatest practical extent. I mean, I'd like to see where and what the where the septic tank exactly is, for example. You can't see that I mean, Jeff's got a photo up of it now, but that wasn't, I don't know that that was in the photos that we had, but and so that's definitely a factor. But you know, it's hard to tell just from the photos.
All right, so how's, much snow out there? How can you get out there?
Yeah, the other issue, if I could interject in here, is we wanted to use as much of the foundation as we could, because this barn is actually has some good concrete floors. There's a picture of the floor there. You know, we're trying to reuse whatever we can, just to, I guess that's the only good picture of it. But you know, trying to have a minimal disturbance out there on the site with, you know, busting this concrete up to move the house back 5 feet doesn't serve much purpose in my mind.
I don't think in my mind that we'll put it this way, the barn to me is not the issue, especially with the concrete floor. The issue to me is whether the other structure would is back as far as it could go as it's rebuilt.
Yeah, I think they were trying to have as short a connection outside as possible. This is, I think, like less than 10 feet or so breezeway between them. If they moved this structure back any further, it'd be moving it closer to the septic system, and you'd also create additional disturbance having this walkway between them, or additional structure. And we knew we were tight on structure. We didn't want to add, we didn't want to build any more than we needed to, but we wanted to build all we could.
All right.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So for the planning board, if you don't mind helping me out, what about the lot coverage part?
I think they already have it. It's less than what they already have.
So, as long as they're not exceeding it, we're saying that according to our ordinance, that's still allowable, even though it's a number that would not be
Yeah,
preferred.
I mean, clearly it exceeds 20%, but like Greg mentioned, you know, they're well over 40% coverage now, unvegetated surface area, and within the shoreline zone, and they're bringing it down slightly to 39%. So, you know, it's less non-conforming, I guess would be maybe the argument.
And I just want to make sure we're clear on this, because if this gets approved, and construction happens, I know you're gonna get calls,
Yeah,
right?
well, and this is a little different than what we normally see, where we have an expansion proposed on an existing structure, and the question is, are they going from below 20% to over 20%?
Right, and so so in this case,
In this case, they're already over.
the easy answer is they're already over. Now that if approved, then they'd be less over.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that's, you know, a third aspect of it being non-conforming.
Right, but you gotta
Existing.
take into consideration when this whole thing was built. And then, you know, do we understand, was it built before shoreline zoning or after shoreline? When it affect your-
Why would that matter?
Well,
I don't know if that's actually called out in the ordinance, that it just says the existing structure. It doesn't date the structure as far as the, you know, I'm just looking at the shoreline zoning ordinance. I'm not sure that's in there. It may be, but I just hadn't noticed it before.
well, as I understand it, what was in existence at the time of, before this whole shoreline zone went into effect, a lot of stuff was, you know, non-conforming as far as this new one we have, so. Is a grandfathering type of thing involved here?
Because they're existing, it's.
Right.
It's
your
existing.
grandfather.
Okay, all right, so we want to make sure that what was done, it was done prior to the we still have one more. Okay, that's all.
I understand what you're
That's-
saying, yeah.
No, it's kind of basic, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I don't know if that matters because there's downsizing and they're lessening what they already have, so.
Right, that's good. No question about it.
So they're not expanding at all, they're not asking for an expansion, so I don't think that matters.
Okay, that's what we need to talk about, and get that kind of clarified. Because like Peter said, chairperson said, people will come back and say, well, this happened, that, and all, so he's gonna kind of get that in the record. For the discussion purposes anyway. Sure.
Mhm.
Okay,
Jeff, on George Seal again, on a different subject. There's no plan to replace the subsurface wastewater treatment system. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had that, somebody look at that in the beginning of December and found it's full of water, but it's still seems to be functioning. He pumped water into it for some time and didn't see any, unusual leakage out in the leach field. So, based on that analysis that we had, I think it's AJ's Septic Service look at it. Based on that, we're not planning on replacing any of that. Might need a new pump in it, but that's, it
Yeah,
seems to be working.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, it's not malfunctioning. The inspector noted a number of things that were unsatisfactory, like the amount of sludge in it, and recommended that it be pumped out. I just wanted to make sure I was clear that it was not going to be replaced.
That's our
And
intent.
I assume that. Go ahead.
I just said that was our intention, is to not replace it.
Yeah. And that includes the tank, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Any plans to have that pumped out and ensure it doesn't fail in the future?
Yes.
Good. Another question I have is what vegetation is going to need to be removed for your proposal?
The septic system recommended removing some of the vegetation out over the septic system. So just to clear that up, we would take out any sort of woody vegetation that's over there. He was concerned about some root intrusion into that system. We'd clean that up and probably, we'll revegetate it with non-woody vegetation. Out front here, there are very few trees that would have to be removed, but there will be some. The previous development shown on the site here really cleared everything over on the north side of the lot. That's the north side up here, and cleared quite a bit down on the south. Our footprint is not appreciably different than that. There may be a few trees over in this corner, but it looks like that's where the driveway is. And so we're reducing some of the driveway area by covering it with a roof. That's what this, in this
Right.
area right here. So that's in the county of impervious area. You'll notice there's a decrease in the driveway area. That's this, where we're building over the top of it with the building.
Mhm.
Okay.
So are any overstory trees being removed?
There may be something in this area. We could look at the photos and maybe figure that out. This is the corner of the existing building right here. don't know how close this tree is to that. Maybe I have some other.
And trees on the waterfront, they're all remaining.
Yes, yeah. This tree is probably gonna have to go right here. It's right next to the chimney and will be demoed out, I would imagine.
Yeah, for the most, our intent is to leave as many trees as we possibly can. It helps to make the building feel like it's always been there, as you know, and so we're trying to preserve those. If you go back to that image of the front of the house, there are, right, these are a lot of the trees would be considered hazard trees in that they could really fall on our building. These ones would have to go one way or the other. They are not healthy or doing well. This one would go. It's also not doing particularly well. Our aim is to save this one, which is a hemlock that's doing quite well. And then the only other tree that I believe we need to take down is growing right against, it's just to the left over there, which I think it's in, if you do, Jeff, go back a photo or two, that gets the whole site. There, and maybe keep going.
No.
It's growing right
This one.
against, yeah, that one. Not only is it in really bad shape, it's a very high hazard tree, and that one would go. But we are not taking anything along the property line. And you can see on the trees are called out on the survey with the existing, what is existing. That's over, I believe, 8 inches in diameter. And there's not an appreciable amount within the building zone. And our attempt is, or we're going to try to keep them all as best we can until they become high hazard or an issue for the building.
Thank you.
I would interject, Peter, if I can, that removing those trees may require you to plant additional trees to take their place, not in the same location, of course.
Yes, that is absolutely not a problem.
So do we have any other questions at this time? I mean, I know we have to schedule a site visit. And that means that we will be seeing this application again following the site visit. I think it would be important to do that, but not wanting to rush this. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I actually have a couple. One, this is kind of pro forma, but the item that's missing is the name and number that your DEP certified excavation contractor that you'll be using. We can always deal with that via a condition of approval, but I just
Right.
wanted to note that. for
Yeah,
record.
we have not selected a contractor yet, so that would have to be a conditional thing that we would get that information to Hans before we begin any work there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. What plans are there? Obviously, it has to be done. I assume you have plans. I didn't necessarily pick up on it in the soil erosion control plan, but for vegetating the areas that are going to be exposed due to the demolition of the old camp, but not covered by the new.
I think we'll probably do just loam and seed. Of course, we'll be putting, I like a bark mulch berm rather than a silt fence, probably a bark mulch berm along the front of the property and also along the northern boundary, because there's a drainage way that goes down there some as well. We'll do that, revegetate, and then remove the erosion control protection following a substantial growth of grass.
You're gonna try bark mulch putting the along the waterfront?
Yeah, I don't think it's all ledge there. I don't think we could silt fence it successfully.
I'm actually at Jeff's camp. I like bark mulch. I know a heck of a lot better than silt fence, which I think is just cosmetic.
No, but I'm just, the proximity to where you're gonna be building, I just see a lot of, some of that bark mulch ending up in the lake.
That stuff's pretty coarse.
It is, but they're also very close.
Yeah, I don't know how else we would do that. Now this drawing or showing here, we're setting back as much as we can from the lake. The only pinch point is right here where there's an existing porch that's right next to the lake. You know, once we demo that out, we'll have a few feet that we could put a bark mulch berm there. I think that's the best we could do.
Could always go old school and use stake hay bales.
No, you can't stake into the ledge.
That's a problem.
But maybe when we do the site visit, we can sort of get a better feel for it, you know, what's going on. Sounds cool that way.
And that covered porch is just on post as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's,
so there's no any excavation down there, it's just on
Right.
post. So.
Yeah.
taking that out won't really create any soil disturbance.
Right.
George, did you have any other questions?
Let's see. No, other than I believe it's pretty clear in the application that the bunkhouse is not gonna have any cooking facilities. That's correct, isn't it, Jeff?
That is.
And are you thinking we'd probably want to make that explicitly clear?
We have it every other time. I assume we want to do that here too, just for.
So Jeff, I think you may have seen us do this in the past, but we want to make sure to state that going forward. You know what I mean?
The bunkhouse has no cooking facilities.
Yes, we will make that very clear from our end. That
Yeah.
we're not.
So the ones we've approved in the past, and there've been quite a number, we've always approved with a condition. So that if cooking facilities get snuck in there at some point in the future, which happens. Unfortunately, that it's easier for the town to enforce it.
Yeah. Could you put a microwave in to make popcorn so you can watch a movie?
I consider that a microwave a cooking.
Yep.
For real. It's as portable as a coffee pot. I mean,
We'd
they're
be
no tone.
perfectly happy to accept order of condition saying no cooking facilities in the guest house.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about a bunkhouse is where you sleep and that's all you do there, basically. I mean, you know, in the traditional historical.
Yeah, that's the plan.
And you eat in the main camp.
I think that needs to be specified as a cooking.
Yeah, we'll
Because
do
it's
it.
so portable, like a coffee pot, and it's, you know.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions or comments, I think it might be wise to specify a date for a site visit. We good to do that? So.
Jeff, is that accessible right now?
I don't know. It depends on how much it melted today. But it would be accessible one way or another. We may have to wade through the snow a bit, but you know, I've got boots.
Yeah, probably sometime in middle of March.
Yeah.
I'd like to do it a day like today where it's 50 degrees if we could. That would be best.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that would be best. So just looking at the calendar. So today's the 16th. Would the board consider anything for a site visit during the week of the 20th, next week, or the week of the 27th, which then gets into the first part of March, knowing how sensitive. or-
27th is a Monday, and that might be a very opportune time.
Really? Okay.
So that was, that's presidential day?
No,
The 20th would be the President's Day.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
20th is the holiday. Anytime you guys could make it would be fine with me.
So
27th at 11.
some can. I can't. I work during the day, so for me, it would be probably weekends or night, but doesn't mean I can't go at some other time. But if the majority of the board could get,
I don't want to do it during the day either.
What's that, Kurt?
I can't do it during the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How about a weekend? Yeah.
No, I think we should do it on a weekend.
if it's okay.
For me, it's gonna be depending on how much snow crust there is, because I've re-injured my heel and my Achilles tendon, so kind of limited.
Yeah, understood. Let me just toss out something. How about, could Sunday, the 26th, be something to consider, Sunday? I know it may not work.
Okay, with it.
You okay with Sunday, the 26th? So for the owners, is that okay? May we visit your place on the Sunday, the 26th?
That would be fine. Thank you.
And,
If we could do a Saturday, it would be easier for me, because my Sundays are pretty
Okay.
busy, but if this 26 works for everybody else, I could do that like sometime in the afternoon.
I don't want to cramp your style. What about the 25th and Saturday? Can that be okay? Or is that?
I'm not gonna make a weekend. I'm limited on my weekends all the time.
Right.
I've only got so many.
Understood.
Waste a weekend and go and look at a site visit.
Rest of the board members,
I'm okay.
the 25th.
I think so.
So let's schedule it and see what we can do. So how about Saturday, the 25th at 11? Jeff, is that okay? Saturday, the 25th at 11.
That would be great for me. I appreciate you changing the date.
Just a question of orders. 3 of you, or maybe Sarah, 4 of you meet together with a client. Is this constituted executive session or a meeting?
It constitutes a meeting, we're gonna have to provide public notice.
So in that case, would you please
Post it.
post it?
What time will you meet?
11 a.m. on Saturday, the 25th.
I'm not familiar with that side of Great Pond. What's the best way to get there?
I'm thinking Horse Point Road,
Yeah,
and then you go up to near Rick Labby's old pit, and just before you get there, left is Pine Beach Road.
okay. All right, now I know where you mean.
From the top of that hill, it's a nice view.
Yeah,
That's all, wow, the year round people down there,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So once you go down in there, which
Take a right.
Take a right, yeah, go off to the north.
like it was flattens out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking. I haven't been down there this winter, but, this lot should be about 2 or 3 lots beyond the condominium. I think,
Is the condominium a real obvious condominium or is it a camp turned into condominiums?
it's camps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's on the way in on the left. There's a couple. They're not butters.
Okay.
Yeah, the prior owner of this place used to plow that whole road up to Horse Point Road once upon a time. I mean, he's healthy.
Gotcha.
Jeff, what's the parking situation? Oh, you don't know, do you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty tight because there's not, I mean, we could park 3 or 4 cars in the driveway. But, and the road is wide enough that would be able to pull off to the side. I think we could get 5 or 6 cars there without too much problem. I'm assuming it's only going to take maybe half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be fishing out near there Saturday.
well, we'll waive.
I can just, this side, this.
Oh, it's that.
I can just do a drive-by by the front.
Hey, that could work out. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for doing that.
When I went out in the fall, it was very wet in the wooded part, so don't get off the road too far.
Okay,
It's gonna
Well-
be beyond wet now.
right, I'm sure lots of things come down. Right to the water.
I wear my boots, I won't wear my high heels,
Right,
Good to know.
And not your high heel boots either.
right.
Can I just make one point
Yes,
on the record?
yeah,
I'm just requesting that at least a person from the planning board review the folder for the property, because I'm looking at it now. And there's some pretty good information in there. So rather than get into it, somebody needs to really look at this and determine some things.
so you're saying to review the property that the town has on file, or
Right.
review the file for this
Because
property?
the questions were about like when the buildings were built.
Mhm.
So it's like, this is when you go pull the file and look through when permits were pulled.
Okay,
And it references a garage that was built without permit.
okay,
That doesn't surprise me.
yeah,
So maybe for the next meeting, Hans, if you could research what's in the town's files.
I looked at septic, but you said you know the previous owner
But I did, yeah.
and you knew these questions. So did you know about this barn, like when it was built?
No, I knew of him, I knew who he was.
Okay.
He used to plow the road. I didn't know him.
yeah.
He was a funny guy.
So, anything you
Very much
find,
himself.
maybe you could bring to the next time we take this application up, just
Make some copies.
summarize whatever might be relevant.
Sure. If you
I
could,
mean, I don't know myself, I'm not sure when that barn was built, or even if it was built in. Unless it was, we had pretty solid evidence that it was built in violation or something of that nature, it's particularly relevant, but.
we'll find out. If you could help us out, that'd be great. Thanks, Heinz.
So assuming, if we have the site visit on the 25th, would we be back on the agenda for March 2nd, maybe?
You could be, yeah.
Yes,
I think
Okay.
there's one. All right.
Okay, thank you.
okay, anything else on this one? No? So, let's see, so we're not gonna act on this anymore tonight. We know we're gonna do a site visit and then take this up again. So I think we should probably have a motion. So it's recorded that we're not acting on this one tonight. So something on the other ones. Take this up again, table until we have had a site visit and receive more information at the next planning board meeting.
I make a motion that we table the application. Jennifer Pentagon. Until after the site visit on the 25th.
March 2nd.
To March 2nd.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
A second.
And second, any more discussion? No. So we'll do a roll call vote. And so Rich, we have a quorum, so I won't have to call you to vote necessarily in this one, right? But so in favor of the table, so Pete.
Yes.
Yeah, George,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
I too am in favor. 4 in favor, none opposed. Thanks. So Jeff, we will see you on the 25th, right?
I'll be there.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
thank you.
Have a good evening, guys.
Yes, you as well.
You should.
Oops. All right.
Sure. And if anybody else wants to share information, we'll have to go back to that setting. Now you know.
I don't remember.
Fantastic. Okay. This one. All right, so that takes care of new business. For item A. Next up is item B, so applicant Mark Purvis,
Yes.
John, Mark,
This is Mark.
Yep.
and John Priestley, you're the architect, for Daniel Burler, who's the owner of a property on 44 Cardinal Lane, map 33, lot 3. Purpose. The goal of the proposed alteration is to produce a more accommodating and attractive residence. All right, great. You want to talk us through some stuff? First of all, before you get going though, is this a conforming and non-conforming structure? On what type of lot?
And it's a limited residential conforming structure, has 235 feet of waterfront. I mean, it's a conforming lot. The structure is not conforming as it sits with
I
a
was
zero.
gonna say, couldn't be any more non-conforming. Otherwise, it was a houseboat, maybe.
The words can be on.
Pete, where about is it on the, what,
I don't know. I was
Right by the Alpine, right off Point Road.
off the Point Road. Okay, thank you.
Heard of Fishwater property.
so is it before or after up one place going out?
Is it
Before.
Before, okay. So what, okay, how far is it down?
Was that how far down Point Road before you hit
Yeah.
Cardinal? I don't know. Help us.
You know, the old farmhouse on the left-hand side, this is where Mr. Fishwater lived, almost across the street from that. Sorry.
That's okay, I don't know the local landmarks, so.
Okay.
But
Or the local history, right?
it's on the west side of the.
I got the long
Okay. All right, so we kind of have a feel for where it is. So generally speaking.
Right.
We know it's a conforming lot with a non-conforming structure.
Mhm.
Thank you, that's important. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Sure, so, in your materials, I had provided a one-page, overview of the project. If everyone's read that already, I don't want to repeat what that says, but I think that gives a good overview. I'm happy to go over those points again if you'd like. I don't know how much application you received, that, submission rather.
No, that narrative was very helpful.
I mean, essentially, yeah, we have an existing boathouse, living quarters above, space for a couple boats to pull in and, kind of tough shape, and we're looking to put it into good shape, but also to, make some alterations as permitted by the ordinance, as far as we can see, to make it more attractive and more accommodating for this new owner.
When you applied under the Natural Resources Protection Act for the work that you have to do below the normal high water mark, did you ever hear back from DEP, or did that permit just go into effect after 14 days?
It does go into effect after 14 days, but we are currently in the midst of the bureaucratic process. We have, what I found out is we have to get a timing approval from inland fisheries and
So you don't interfere with spawning.
so we're in the waiting period for that. At that point, the permit by rule, the clock starts ticking on that. So in the application, what you see is a preliminary application for the permit by rule. We're just now waiting for the various, departments to do their thing.
Okay,
So, yeah.
I did talk to DEP today. This application is still in process.
okay,
It is active, it is not been dismissed.
thank you.
Sure.
The other question I had was, with regard to the wastewater system. So you're proposing a new one.
Yes.
What's the timetable? Well, I assume everything hinges on DEP issuance of their permit. What's the timetable for the construction of that versus the construction proposed on the boathouse?
Well, wouldn't be able to occupy the boathouse until that was done.
Actually, that was the gist of my question.
Yeah.
Whether you were planning to use the existing system at all. And
Well, yeah, I mean, the owners have used the house in its current form, but the system, as I think you can see, has a pretty terrible report.
yeah,
And they
malfunction.
fully intend to replace that. They, want to do things the right way, so. And you've got the, I believe the design for the new system in your
Right.
packet.
Peter, can I ask a question?
Surely, Rich, go ahead.
How much of the structure is being removed? When I say structure, I'm thinking of both the house and the boathouse portion. The reason I asked the question is that neither the house nor the boathouse is considered a water dependent use, and if one were being built today, it'd have to meet the setback requirement. And when something is damaged, destroyed, or removed, that falls under needing to look at the setback requirement. Is the boathouse staying as is? Or is that being torn apart as well?
Sure, the house and the boathouse are one and the same. It's just a single structure. The residential quarters sit right on top of the boathouse, so to speak. Yeah, the intent is to maintain the use of the boathouse portion of it as well as altering the residence.
Yeah, I understand that it's the intent, but the question I had was, is the boathouse being destroyed and being rebuilt?
No, the intent is to work with the existing structure, the existing foundation, and the existing superstructure as much as possible and rebuild from what's there and make alterations to what's there.
Okay, thank you.
So it looks like on this drawing that
Yes,
you're reinforcing the interior wall of the boathouse, is that correct?
that's correct. So that one was prepared with the assistance of a licensed structural engineer. What we've concluded is that there's no steel reinforcing whatsoever in the existing foundation. The existing foundation has a poured concrete lower portion, and the upper 4 feet or so is concrete block. The foundation is actually being crushed inward by the soil pressure. And from the cracks and bowing in the wall, it's clear that there's no steel reinforcing in it whatsoever. So the intent is to repair it by bolstering it and getting some proper engineering into it, but not removing that. The existing foundation will stay in place.
Because as Rick Baker noted, if you were entirely removing that existing wall, then we'd have a whole different set of criteria we'd have to look at.
Yeah, we understand that, and I think, the intent is to maintain the boathouse, maintain the use of it, and that really precludes tearing out the foundation. I mean, environmentally, that would be a pretty tough situation. So the goal is to simply reinforce it so that it is sound for years to come.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was looking at this now and surprising it's in as good a condition as it is because the ice Well, your actual question, Ray. They
Yeah,
did a pretty good job building it first.
Well, Mark figured this out. As you can see, it's a U-shaped plan and the soil pressure comes in from the sides.
Yeah.
And Mark discovered that there are two steel beams. They're hanging in the ceiling of the boathouse and we couldn't figure out what they're for because they're not part of the structure. And apparently they lowered them down on ropes every year to wedge the sides of the foundation from getting pushed in farther. And that was their structural solution.
Hey,
Band-Aid is the right term.
You know, sounds like a fine made tradition to me.
yeah,
Very rigid.
So,
wow,
yeah,
interesting,
Made it made.
It worked.
but convenient, right? All right. Huh.
it worked. It worked so far.
Yeah.
We prefer not to do that going forward.
So I have a question about something that's been stated. You said the intent is to use the foundation.
Yes.
I guess my question is, what confidence level do you have that you would be going forward with the foundation as compared to going in there, having more evaluation and then determining this is a no-go? Because it's possible, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, I visited the site some months ago with the structural engineer. It's Michael Cunningham, Lincoln Haney, structural engineers. And he crawled all around it and we discussed it in detail and then we developed the details that you see on that sheet. So he expressed a high level of confidence that this is all doable and it can be made 100% reliable and competent structurally, using this methodology. I mean, the wall is there is handy in one sense in that it's holding the soil back for now and it is giving us a shape, a form to work against.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Does the board see a need for a site visit in this case?
I don't.
Okay.
I do potentially see a need for at least one condition, possibly two, in addition to the stormwater runoff.
Mhm. Hans, if this is approved, again, this would be another thing that will have a lot of eyes on it, and I'm sure there'll be plenty comment.
Yeah, I have not visited this site. This road is not completed at all. I see what we said.
Mhm.
Do you happen to know when the existing structure was converted from a boathouse to a residential structure?
It was built in like,
I don't think
Yeah,
that's
it's really-
converted. Do you have information
it
on
was built, I think, 1978 as this retirement home.
it? Yeah. As,
Oh.
as it stands.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Built in 78.
And how they got approval for that.
Yeah. And the height of the proposed structure is no higher than the current one? Is that
That's
correct?
correct, yes. There is a diagram in the package that illustrates. I think it's called the maximum height.
I'm sorry, it was 1975, it's noted down here.
Thank you. I see that. Now that you mention it, thank you. 1970.
Rich, when did the legislature pass shoreline zoning?
So I was
73?
trying- I was trying to think of it when that was, but it could have been as late as 1980.
Oh,
I just can't remember.
I thought it was around 89, something around there.
oh, no,
No?
no.
No,
No,
I,
'cause
start-
my stay on the planning board was in 1985 and we had it then. Yeah, it doesn't matter to this application. It's just a matter of curiosity.
Yeah, it was around 85, that's right. I came up to Maine in 95 and I did that because they did have, just got shoreline zoning in here. Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Well, in some ways, although I think this is an unusual circumstance, it also is a very well put together application.
Yeah.
And I don't have any more questions. Does anybody else have any questions? So I think we have probably some brewing conditions of approval, right, George? At least two that are out there. In order for us to do this, we have to do something called findings of fact and conclusions of law, which is a procedure that we go through.
Sure.
So we have one of those for this. Board members, are we ready to do this, or are there any other questions you'd like to ask?
Can I go back?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah. We shall wait, pause for a moment. Rich, do you have any other concerns, questions, comments about this
no.
application?
No, the only concern I had, and is if the boathouse and the house weren't attached together, we'd be looking at moving back to the greatest practical extent, but I'm understanding of what has been proposed now. And by the way, the Shoreline Zoning Act was passed in 1971.
71. All right. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was good to maybe make clear that the two structures, the two references, boathouse and house, are one and the same.
Yeah.
Just one's over the other. According to the drawings that you provided, the final structure will be quite nice looking, at least to me.
Mark will make it that way.
Absolutely. Just, Rich, you asked about hard surface being changed and all that. The new structure will have a slightly larger footprint than the existing structure, but they're taking the hard surface away from the walkway to the side of the house and other accessory structures.
So the overall square footage though is 4 square feet less.
That's correct.
And the walkway is visible on the illustration, the photos.
Right.
Yeah, so the total square footage, is going down. Lessening the non-conformity. Set. We'll get into this a little bit. All right, so our job now is to go through this findings of fact and conclusions of law. You may have seen this in other towns, I don't know. It's absolutely scintillating process to go through.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Belgrade Planning Board findings of fact and conclusions of law, application for shoreline permit. The applicant is Daniel Burler. Address is 44 Cardinal Lane, map 33, lot 003. The applicants on today's date. Is the 16th, right? For a shoreline permit for, as described, the goal of the proposed alteration is to produce a more accommodating and attractive residence. Those are the project details you supplied on the application. The application was presented to the planning board on February 16th. These findings of fact and conclusions of law were developed in conjunction with consideration of the permit application. Just 1 second. Okay. Based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it, and the above findings of fact, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is or is not permitted with the use that you described. Under section 14, table 1 in the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions in section 16D of the ordinance. The board, are you ready to go through this? That item number 1, that it will maintain safe and healthful conditions. So by a vote, the board found that the standard was met. So this is safe and healthful conditions. So again, Rich, we have a form, so I won't have to ask you for a vote necessarily, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so roll call. So Pete, this is about safe and healthful, that it will meet that. Yes, and George?
Yes.
Craig? I too think so. That's 4 in favor, none opposed. Based on the application submittals and public record. And that language will be repeated. Number 2, that will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. By a vote of, the board found that the standard was met based on those things. So, Pete, this is about water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to the waters.
Will not.
Will not. So that, okay, but the standard was met, that it will not do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, that's in favor, so, and George,
Yes, with the stormwater condition.
stormwater condition. That we will get to. Thank you. Craig, and me too, 4 in favor, none opposed. That 3 will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. By a vote, the board found this standard was met, so wastewater, so Pete.
Yeah.
George.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Me too. 4 in favor, none opposed. That 4 will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. So adverse impact on spawning grounds, etc. So Pete.
Yes.
George.
I think a condition is going to be required for me to say yes, and that condition would be that construction may not start until such time as the Natural Resource Protection Act permits issued and a copy is provided to the code enforcement officer.
Okay. So I've got the essence of that, and then we'll
Yeah,
further,
I can give you the language.
okay,
Everybody, nobody objects.
okay, and then Craig, okay, me too, 4 in favor, none opposed. 5, will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. So by a vote, the board found this standard was met. So shore cover, visual points of access. Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, 4 in favor, none opposed. That 6 will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. So archaeological and historic. So Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yeah.
me too, 4 in favor, none opposed. That 7 will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. So by a vote, the board found this standard was met.
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Craig, me too.
Thank you for addressing that, by the way, in your application.
Yes, thank you. It's another great application. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
8, so we'll go through a whole list of things, some of which are applicable, others are not. We'll indicate those as such and then vote at the end when we discuss. So that 8 is in conformance with the provisions of section 15 land use standards. So by a vote, the board found this standard was met based on evidence in the record and further as follows. Relative to A, minimum lot standards. I'm thinking not applicable. Please jump out if I'm going down the wrong path, okay? B, principal and accessory structures.
Yes.
C, campgrounds. And A. D, individual private campsites. Also in A. E, commercial and industrial uses. None proposed, so I would say in A. F, parking areas. G, roads and driveways. Not applicable, right? 'Cause nothing. Then H, signs. And A. Stormwater runoff.
Yes.
J, septic waste disposal systems.
Yep.
Yes. K, essential services. I think that's still NA in this one.
Yeah.
L, in mineral exploration and extraction. Lithium mining? No?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
Little lithium.
Yeah. That's nice. No.
Yeah, okay. M, agriculture. Not applicable. And timber harvesting and land management roads. That'd be not applicable. Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than harvesting, timber harvesting. None proposed, right? So NA. P, hazard trees, storm damaged trees, and dead tree removal. None. And A. Q, exemptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements. A. Revegetation requirements. NA, is that
Yeah.
the case? S, erosion and sedimentation control, that would be yes. T, shoreline stabilization, was there any? There was none of. Was there any need that this would be?
That's part of the Natural Resource Protection Act.
So I'm gonna say yes. Linked to. You soils. In A.
No, I would say that's applicable because of the septic system. that
Oh,
they
yeah.
Provided the soils report.
Great. V, water quality.
Yes.
Yep. W, historical and archaeological sites. NA in this case. And then X, resource protection.
That's an A.
NA, because it's not at all associated. And just for everybody's awareness, we have some conditions of approval that are standard that we have, and I'll read them to you. So the conditions of approval need to meet required Belgrade shoreline zoning ordinance findings in section 16D. These are two. One, that manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15I of the Belgrade shoreline zoning ordinance and the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's best management practices, as outlined in conservation practices for homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use. Note, this is a standing condition that applies to all permits unless deemed unnecessary by the planning board, based on the following rationale. So, what would be appropriate rationale? Oh, we're not gonna actually take that back. We're all good, keeping it. Two, the planning board's approval of this project is limited to that described in the application and depicted in the accompanying site plan and other applicable application submissions. Any changes to or deviations from the application, site plan, or other application submissions as approved by the planning board must receive prior approval by the board, including but not limited to changes to the proposed location, footprint and height of structures, changes in the number of bedrooms, roads and driveways, parking, wells, subsurface wastewater disposal systems, the extent and location of vegetated areas, tree cutting and natural vegetation clearing, methods of soil erosion and stormwater runoff. This too is a standard condition. I think we want to probably voice concern about two other.
Yeah, do you want to vote on the list first, or do you want to do the whole, getting the caboodle together?
I think I want to do the whole thing together. The reason is we have a link to. Actually, no, on this one, we can do these. Actually, we have a link. Shoreline stabilization is linked to the NERPA app. And if that's going to be another condition, I think it would be wise to voice those out.
Okay,
So. Let us do that. So,
why don't I just read them for everybody's,
sure.
and then we can discuss it. The first one, would be, proposed residential structure may not be occupied until such time as the new subsurface wastewater disposal system is completed and receiving all wastewater from the structure. Which you said as much, but I think it would be good to have a condition to that effect.
Okay.
Seeing how the existing structures, failing. The second would be, construction of proposed residential structure may not start until the issuance of the Natural Resources Protection Act permit, and a copy is provided to the Belgrade Code Enforcement Officer. So
Okay.
we'll talk about them, and then if that's what people decide they want to do, I'll give it.
Okay, sounds good.
Can I ask for a little clarification on that last point? So are you referring to the permit by rule?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and maybe this is self-evident, the permit by rule, once that goes in, if 14 days elapses and they haven't contacted the applicant, that becomes the approval.
Right.
So, we won't be granted approval from them specifically, but rather it's the lack of a denial within 14 days. We could certainly pass along that information to your planning
Yeah.
office. In other words, we could tell you when the application goes in, and we could notify you that 14 days has elapsed. And that,
Okay, yeah.
that I think is as close as we can get.
Yeah,
Getting
no,
approval.
I understand now. I got confused because sometimes they do, in some circumstances, actually issue a permit.
That's correct. They can.
And I thought this might be one
they
because of
can
the
issue it.
inland fish and wildlife
Right.
involvement.
So certainly if we receive something, we could pass it along. Or 14 days elapses, then that makes it official.
Well, it's already on my radar because I was given a draft under section 2. And then when I received your packet, you had section 2 in the structural section checked off. And I'd never seen the draft for the structural, so I questioned what was happening and
Right,
was told that it went to the other department and it's
it's in the works,
wired down in
right,
the second, the structural department.
yeah,
So hopefully I'll get an email. Usually they email me the permits when they're approved,
oh, good,
and I have a special file with
all right,
all the permits.
okay.
Perfect.
Well,
So-
help you here.
let me try this language
Yeah.
and see if this construction of proposed residential may not start until the Natural Resources Permit Act goes into effect.
Sure, I mean, that sounds,
And
That's fine.
you're saying, Hans, that we don't need the language that and is provided to the code enforcement officer because you're gonna get that automatically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I mean, I usually do. But it's on my radar. I'll be checking on it prior to. You know, because of the way it evolved here.
Okay. So I'll eliminate that last section. So it would read, as I read just moments ago, construction of the proposed residential structure may not start until the Natural Resources Protection Act permit goes into effect. Period. Rich, do you have any thoughts on that? You know more about this than I do.
Yeah, no, I think you've got it. It's a 14-day and, you know, if you don't hear from them in 14 days, you have your permit.
Yeah.
Approval anyway, maybe not.
And you heard from them is the issue.
pardon me.
And you heard from them is the,
Well, I've been in
Conversing.
communication with them
Yeah.
and, yeah, just waiting for them to do their thing, so,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that has to happen before anything
yeah.
proceeds.
Okay, so those would be my two suggestions.
Thank you. So, I think by talking this out a bit and understanding where we're coming from, at least you understand that the two other conditions we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe add to it. So do planning board members, are we in agreement that these two new conditions would be part of this application?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so me too. So having said that, knowing that this is gonna be part of it, I'll take some time to write this out on this. So thank you for that. I'd like to go back to section 8 and we vote on the slew of things because we had one was linked to this one condition, so one of the conditions, so. So the items in play here. B, principal and accessory structures. I, stormwater runoff. J, septic waste disposal systems. Erosion and sedimentation control. Shoreline stabilization, that will be linked to this. And soils and water quality. Those are the things that are in play. Everything else is not applicable. We good?
Yeah.
Okay, so based on those items, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items that we just outlined again. So by a vote, the board found that this standard, so this is about land use standards, section 15, was met based on the evidence in the record and further as follows. So those things. So in favor of those things that we're talking about. So Pete,
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too. That's 4 in favor. 4 in favor, none opposed. And let me just take a moment to write down these two. So the third condition is that the proposed residential.
You had a long drive, Mark, from Blue Hill, didn't you? You can't get there from here.
No, it's pretty much Bangor is actually the quickest way.
Yeah, 1A.
Yeah.
Beautiful area.
You guys actually have a lot more snow than we do.
Yeah.
They lost a lot today and the other day. One died around here a week ago, and it was nice riding.
Yeah.
Put 70 miles on.
My friend just went up to Pittston Farms. He was heading there this afternoon for a big benefit ride up there, and he said they actually have snow, so he was happy.
Yeah, it's pretty good up there.
What's the elevation up in Woodstock? You know, what sea level? What's the level?
Must be, I don't know what it is actually.
Yeah. We're 250 here. above sea
250.
level. I bet they're about 1,000 meters.
I think so. I don't know the answer.
You go up that way too.
I haven't been yet this year.
Yeah. Yeah, just that. That'd be a lot easier. Do that same thing. I'm moving down for a little bit. I would just do Pittston Farm. They had
I'm not sure.
That's what it's. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I will read this. Hopefully I captured this correctly, so that the two other conditions of approval are these. That the proposed residential structure may not be occupied until such time as the new subsurface wastewater disposal system is completed and receiving all wastewater from this structure. That's 3. Number 4. Construction of proposed residential structure may not start until the Natural Resource Protection Act permit goes into effect. I think I captured it. Thank you very much. Excellent crib sheet. So based on the application submittal and the public record, the application package that we received, all those documentation, questions, comments, everything. I think we're ready to vote. Okay. So based on the above findings of fact and conclusions of law on today's date, 2/16, the town of Belgrade Planning Board approved by a vote the shoreline application of Daniel Burler. Just a second. With the above conditions and at a meeting on 2/16/2023, develop these written findings of fact and conclusions of law on remand from the Belgrade Board of Appeals and adopted these findings on today's date. So all those in favor of approving this application, permit application, with the 4 conditions that we've outlined. So in favor, so Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Me 2, so 4 in favor. None opposed. It's been approved, it will be mailed.
Great.
And I assume, as you know, it will go to Mark, is that, applicant is Mark.
Yes.
So, Hans, does that make sense? He would get the. Awesome. Best wishes in your project.
That's right. Thank you very much. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm sure Daniel does as well. Yeah.
I bet, yeah, it's gonna be slightly ambitious, it looks like,
Yeah.
and,
That's why we have Mark.
I've done fun projects like this before.
yeah,
In the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah. Fun is that.
absolutely.
You guys guys.
I did sign it. And let me do this if I could. You have the original permit,
Sign that.
Here, do you need a pen?
Maybe I need to borrow this.
Yeah. Fresh man, black too. Eagle Pete. Thank you. Thanks. Then back down. And when do you think you'll start construction?
Well, as soon as the road commissioner gives me to go ahead, I'm all good and post roads, so.
They just posted them yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was gonna say,
I think that's gonna be our start date is when Jason Stevens there, or was okay.
Yeah, all the surrounding towns did the same.
Yeah, at least that's normal. Everybody asked like, when are you gonna start? I said, well, we definitely window.
Yeah,
When they
about 2
take
weeks
those-
earlier,
those
thanks
take
to
those
climate
signs
change,
off
huh?
telephone poles, that's when we start.
Is it a couple weeks, few weeks? Usually.
Yeah.
Good day. I lost a month from my foundation when we did our kid.
I would expect that.
Yeah,
If I was to guess, I'd say towards the end of April, beginning of May.
Jason's doing the groundwork.
We didn't have a cold winter though, so the frost might come.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. There's the
Yeah.
time. We're only halfway.
Just like two.
Yeah,
weeks-
yeah,
two
that's
weeks
right,
years ago.
We could pay in
Snaps
April.
Like that.
Yeah.
It'll still be in April sometime, right? It's
Yeah.
been earlier every year.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's our start date.
Are we all set?
Yes.
Perfect. I should have mentioned this in advance, but I was on the planning board in the town of Rockport for 9 years.
Oh, and
I don't know if
Robert,
it's better for you guys to know that or not, in Rockport, yeah. You guys did great.
thank
Yeah,
you.
those
Sam.
findings of fact are critical, tedious, but
Yeah,
it protects the town, so.
and
Yeah.
that's true. Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a safe drive back to Blue Hill.
Yeah, safe journey.
Try not to hit too many deer.
Yeah.
We don't need any of that.
Yeah. All right, so next up, so that takes care of that. So new business taken care of. Old business, we have the planning board charter review. So we have the package from George.
You want to just give audience opportunity to speak if they want to, prior to getting into the boring stuff.
You want me to bring up the one thing in the ordinance that
Yes,
I think is a misspelled or on the typo. I had it, but I don't know.
we're on page 12, I think, Shane.
That what it was, page 12?
Yep, page 2B.
You know, because I've got nothing to do, I said, I'll read this week today. Basically, it came from a visit that I had with Pete, and he came down for a site visit for my neighbors, so what the discussion was about like the extension of square footage on the house. And Pete mentioned you could go up, I thought there was a limitation to the code of that. So basically, what it is on page 12. It's, well, paragraph 2B, where it talks about the expansions of any non-conforming structure or portions thereof that legally exist and exceed the maximum allowable total combined with its floor area. Specifications set forth in sections 12C1A, 12C1B, respecting 12C1A above is prohibited. Where it says floor area, those aren't the specifications that are set in those things, it's footprint.
Yeah, right.
So what I started doing was interpolating what the definition of floor area is versus footprint. It made me think that there was a restriction on square footage. Basically, so that was just a minor thing, but it kind of set me straight to see that, just to bring that to attention.
I'm glad you brought it up because my thinking is that rather than saying floor area, it should have said square feet.
Right, and that's what's referenced, when you go back and read those other 3 paragraphs, that's what you're talking about.
Footprint,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
and the footprints, what do we consider a footprint? the drip line because you have cantilever houses, so it can't be the foundation.
It's in the definitions. Everything that I've learned with this thing, you go back and you read the definitions,
Yeah.
like the previous people were talking about,
Drip line.
Yeah.
hazardous trees. Just because the tree is tall, and if it falls and hits your house, doesn't make it a hazardous tree. You gotta go in and read the definition of what a hazardous tree is, what makes it hazardous. Because if that's the case, then I live amongst 10,000 hazardous trees, which I don't.
Right.
Right.
So in those definitions is, and that's how I came with this floor area and floor plan, what it is. So that's, I wanted to bring that up because Hans and I had talked a little bit about things, so he asked me to bring this up. But while I'm speaking, the reason that I brought this folder up was because in your discussion, and Pete made the, when is that garage go? So I went out and pulled the file for the previous applicant. It's long file, and I don't know everything that's in it, but I can, basically, when you go over that application, one has to ask yourself, how does that many square feet get built on 0.4 acres? Legally. Was it legal or wasn't it? In this application, there's a letter from the town, 2 letters from the town to the previous owner of building a garage without a permit. So that being said, whether they came to whatever's in this folder, that's what somebody needs to review. But that's how you're getting these 4,000, 5,000 square foot homes built on half an acre. Because this board is permitting a previous board's mistake or the town for not making somebody tear something down and should have. But then you're giving these people credit for square footage that never should have been built there in the first place. That's just my belief. That's why I'm asking. If I read that correctly, that structure was supposed to be removed.
But
As part of the transfer.
this is what I'm saying. But when stuff doesn't happen, that's how you have to look at the situation and say, how did you get 45% of the area covered? Well, because people start building illegal buildings, and then the town doesn't make them remove it. And then 50 years down the road, 4 years down the road, the property gets sold, they go, hey, we want to build a bigger house, why combine it? Because, well, when you start combining illegal square footage, hence 4,000 square feet homes get built on 4/10 of an acre. So that's why I'm just saying someone needs to review this for that purpose.
It's a good point too, because I think the assumption when we read through the ordinance is that when we're reviewing something, that if it exists legally, and those words are in there several times, right? Our presumption is that it does.
Well, the question is, number one, the garage is never finished, why? And the place is basically deserted, why? You know, they never finished because this started going on back in 1990. So that's why this is here, and either I'll leave it with you or I'll bring it back to the young lady up front and you can look at it. And it's for you guys to determine, but I believe that's the information that's in there.
It's a good point. And
And the way we left it was, Hans, you were gonna look at that and then
Yeah.
report back to us on.
Yeah.
When we take up that application again.
And that would be appropriate to do
Yeah.
at that time, yeah. And I understand the spirit of what you're saying too, because, you know, otherwise you could have something happen that would be illegal or done without permission. Then there's a propagation of that same thing later, right? Because of the previously mentioned our assumption when reading through this.
Correct.
So yeah, so sometimes we have to figure out some stuff. But we will look at that for sure. And it may mean we need to get legal advice on that. Which we can do.
I mean, I feel sorry for the people who bought the lot thinking, look what I got, but that's, again, that's your guys' thing to deal with. But that's the reason why 40% of the lot is developed.
Right.
Well, and that's why when you have an attorney do a title search, there's always an exemption for compliance with local ordinances.
Right.
Because they don't want to be, you know, they don't want to get into the weeds on that.
Right.
And I would say, because I don't want to single out any particular property or anything, but this is not the first time this happened.
Right.
So it's a big thing to try to wrestle with, so. Just want to mention,
Propagation of it is, until it gets stopped, it's only going to fester and fester and fester, because then you're not stopping anybody from adding square footage to lots and then down the road. It just happens again and again and again.
Right.
You don't want to be the person that bought this lot and find that out, and then the correction factor comes in. You know what I mean?
yeah, what a buzzkill, huh? You get all excited.
That's what it is.
And what are we gonna do with the term? Are we gonna switch that to footprint or?
We'll just have to, I think, we'll have to just add it to the list next time we go through the ordinance and revise it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
Probably not gonna be an issue.
yeah, right.
Well, the definition of floor area, and footprint are different right now.
Right.
Floor area. And like Mr. Shaku says, if we're granting permissions. In a way that it doesn't read.
Yeah.
On a way that we just know was intended. It's not what the ordinance is.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And because there's a difference, we need to have, we need to square that away, because I think what we would find, based on what Shane was saying. We go through here, we're referencing things that are not floor area. We're talking about square foot, so I think anybody, the average person was there, I think you meant,
Right.
Something else, not floor area. So, I mean, I'm not.
Floor area and square footage, area is. Right, square footage is cubic feet, I mean. But I mean, did
Right.
we intend floor area or footprint?
No,
We've been doing footprint.
that was an oversight on our part when
Yeah.
we redid the ordinance. It should have been, footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, in fact, I mean, the state got rid of floor area as well.
Yeah,
Is that
Yeah,
satisfactory?
yeah, that's fine. That's just, like I said, that's between you guys, but that's how I
and it,
came up with. the
Unfortunately,
reason you
though,
Go out.
When
and you add
that whole
whole
situation comes
floor.
up, we, have been routinely addressing it by means of other parts of the ordinance.
and that was front and center, I know, at least in a lot of our conversations was thinking about what those differences were. I think the simple fact of the matter was among people, overlooked that.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
I'm surprised you didn't find more typos, frankly.
Oh, don't get me started.
So we will tackle that, and what this will mean, we'll take this to the voters to have a slightly revised shoreline zoning ordinance at some point. It probably is not gonna be town meeting, right?
Right, yeah.
It probably won't be, I don't think it's gonna be this November. It'll probably be another time.
Yeah, we'll probably combine it with some other changes.
Because, yeah, there are.
Get on the select board, then you can make sure we get it done soon.
Yeah. Put all else aside, I need this typo. That's tough. Yes,
Right. So George, you had mentioned that microwaves are considered food preparation. I totally understand because these days microwaves can be convection ovens as well. We don't even want. Is refrigeration considered that too?
I would consider it.
So it doesn't matter what you store in it, it's refrigerated, you can store a,
Well,
tomato
actually, I'd say
sandwich in there,
that.
or-
Yeah, maybe
A
not.
beverage.
Yeah,
Cause then, economic.
Refrigerator.
yeah, no, for drinks. Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's not crystal clear, right? But cooking's cooking. That's not cooking.
And is there a definition that we're supposed to be going with? Is this a state definition? Like, how do we determine?
Rich, do you have any insight on this about cooking facilities?
Well, if they, like you guys said earlier, microwave or a hot plate or whatever, I'd say that is cooking facilities, but I wouldn't consider somebody bringing in like a refrigerator to store drinks in or something like that as cooking facilities.
Are there any state definitions to go by that we could all reference?
Nothing other than the definition in the ordinance of a residential dwelling unit, and that's where it talks about eating or cooking, bathing, or I don't have the definition in front of me, but look up residential dwelling unit, Peter.
Yeah, it speaks to cooking specifically, which would turn a bunkhouse into a second primary principal structure.
Oh, yeah, well, the definition does not define cooking,
No,
but it does residential dwellings. It says here, living quarters for only one family at a time and containing cooking, sleeping and toilet facilities.
yeah,
The term shall include mobile homes and rental units that contain cooking, sleeping and toilet facilities regardless of the time period. Rented recreational vehicles are not residential dwelling units.
Yeah.
We may
Yeah,
may
so
have
if
to
we
put a
stay,
definition in there.
yeah, if we stay focused on the operative term cooking,
Cooking.
Yeah.
so,
And,
you know, they're in,
Fine.
microwaves are out.
If you guys were gonna make a change to the ordinances and you wanted to rectify that entire situation as bunkhouse, like you said to those people, bunkhouse is where you sleep. If you remove the plumbing, then it's gonna be a bunkhouse.
Yeah.
It makes it way less rentable. If it's a building that's got a bed and a toilet and a shower in it, it's rentable. There's heat in it versus take the plumbing out, then it's a bunkhouse. It's a place where the people go out and sleep and then they come back in, you know what I mean? And it makes it way easier.
So no one has to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Especially after they've been tapping into the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, did that help answer your question? Okay, great, and thanks for those
Yeah.
comments. Appreciate it. I think next on the agenda is to go over the planning board charter review, and this is the package that George.
Oh, you guys.
Hey, this is the good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What, do you have something against bureaucracy?
All righty. So George, this is, okay, this is nice, we got two things, the old one. And then the sample.
Yeah, so, what I found on the, in the appendix of the MMA's planning board manual was, the sample ordinance, which is the longer of the two. And as you may recall, the town attorney in his, response back to us was of the opinion that he thought this was a perfectly fine, place to start as a model, if we should so choose to do that. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, there's a few things there that would need to be, eliminated, because it's also written for those cases like, say, Waterville, where planning board members are elected officials rather than appointed. But one of the things, I mean, that is pretty self-explanatory. The second, which is a smaller, which is labeled language for use in reestablishing a board, which was not legally established when created. That's not really the situation we're in, but has language in it that might be useful for us to think about adding to the larger document. Because what it does is it makes it clear that we, the current board, will continue to serve as the planning board uninterrupted. So see what sentence is that, it's like. Like the second, starting with the second sentence where it reads, the board which has been acting as a planning board is hereby reestablished as a legal planning board. The members currently serving may continue to do so until the end of the term for which they were, in our case, appointed without need to be reappointed or take a new oath of office. And it also goes on to say, and I think this is important, the actions which that board took prior to the adoption of this ordinance are hereby declared to be the acts of the legally constituted planning board of the town of Belgrade.
Boy, I think that's a great find to have that language in there because as you pointed out before, George,
I can't imagine us going up with that one.
Right, exactly.
Right? But things are vulnerable if we don't declare something like this.
Or at least murky,
Yeah,
potentially murky,
right, exactly.
and this just eliminates that.
Right, helps put a stake in the ground and said, you know, this is what we are, how we have been acting, and we'll continue to do so. So if that's the case, if the board members like this language, it sounds like what we would do is probably use this sample language part and put that.
Towards the end.
Maybe in
Number
into
five, maybe?
paragraph one, maybe, well, it could go in a number of places probably.
Yeah,
But, you know, I think the first discussion we have to have, because I'm, you know, I don't know how everybody feels is, you know, whether or not people want to move forward with, whether it's this model or some other. In the first place, because that's sort of the first decision that needs to be made. And then we can get into the, you know. If we're gonna go with this, how to modify it, if,
right. Well, from my perspective, I don't know why I would want to change anything, like. Right, keeping it as is simple. Are there any downsides to keeping it as is? That's, I guess, one question. You know, the way we have the language in here, and thank you, George, for doing this. You know, keeping the number of members and a number of associate members the same, 5 and 2. The terms are the same, 3 years.
well, I raised that latter point just because, well, I know you hadn't had a chance to look at anything at that point at the last meeting, but I wanted to make sure whether it's you, Craig, or others had a chance to, you know, weigh in on whether or not we should even be doing anything other than, I mean, to do nothing means to go back to how the, you know, the board, the law under which the board was established in 1970, and, you know, among other things that would mean 5-year terms.
Right. And I find that to be very risky. On a number of levels, like how would you get someone? How much confidence could we have in getting people to commit to 5-year terms? I think that my confidence level would be really low on that. I think Craig pointed that out last time.
Sorry, I mean, this was it's just cleaning up housekeeping, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, the content is fine. Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting, you may recall, and I thought it was longer than this, but at last town meeting, or last March, almost a year ago. The appeals board went through a similar process and the voters approved an ordinance to reestablish the Board of Appeals. And when I realized that or remembered that, I thought, and the town attorney drafted that. It has some things in it that this model doesn't include, and it's more of well, it's sort of, you know, how do you operate? I think some of these things may be in state law, but I'm not positive. anyway, but, they deal with things like, voting procedures, what consists of a quorum. It deals with how people actually vote, what a tie vote means. It defines conflict of interest, which is the same, defined the same way as you find it in the MMA manual that, when we all went to training, it's the same as that. It deals with the chairperson appointing when the alternate is supposed to act for a regular member. There are a few things like that. There's a lot that doesn't apply, but in fact, most of it doesn't. But those were some things that, we may wish to consider. I don't know. Or we might just want to keep it simple.
And keep this form here is what our attorney recommended. We said,
Yeah,
and we just add this little bit of verbiage into it.
yeah.
We're good to go.
I mean, like I said, I'm guessing that some of those things like definition of conflict of interest, that's all in state law, the only advantage, I suppose, of putting it in here would be if it came up, we wouldn't need to do a lot of scrambling around to come up with it, but 6 of 1 half dozen.
I will keep it simple.
Okay,
Just adding this verbiage.
yeah,
I agree.
My take would be, you like it too, Rich, keeping it simple?
Simple, put the thing in that George initially proposed, but stop at that.
Okay,
I'm
I
speaking
like that idea.
credit. I don't know whether this was in, I couldn't find it, I didn't see anything on my email or whatever that included this. Is this just a packet that was handed out at the planning board, or did you guys actually see this ahead of time?
So this that George produced,
It was on our agenda.
so I was looking at my email recently and I saw the agenda and I saw the other items I don't know if I saw this as part of that.
no, Hans sent it out in a separate email.
Oh, okay.
It's an old business planning board charter review, and yeah, these were sent separate,
Separately. What
but
date?
they're
if you-
available on the website. I
Understood.
did post them there after you pointed out they weren't.
Okay. Thank you. So Rich, you were sent out separately.
All right,
Maybe on Monday.
Monday.
I think so, because the other one was like the 10th, the one.
Should be on the website now.
So going forward, if you want to take this and utilize this language here and insert it somewhere. Is that kind of where we are right now? And I think we're all in agreement that going forward with something simple like this would be a good approach.
Well, I mean, we don't need to make a decision tonight, and that way it would give Rich an opportunity to for him to have an opportunity to review it. What I could do, and I'm willing to do, is make that change that we just discussed. And I don't know if I'm gonna have to retype this somehow. I'm hoping I can just copy and paste it.
We love that. That's always good.
And then, that way everybody could see it kind of in its semi-final form.
I'd really like to make sure Sarah gets a chance to see it too.
Right. Yeah, that way she would have an opportunity to.
She might have some other ideas, but. So I guess I would say let's not make any final decisions about what's going to happen with the overall language yet, but can we at least agree upon that, what, George, you provided to us, that we're going to go ahead and move ahead with that? So I'd like to have a motion on this, so it's official, because this is going to be an ordinance, which means, I mean, it's small, but we have to bring it to the voters to vote on it, which means there's a timeline and all that jazz. So, well, this will have to get into a hopper to go, so.
Well, and the other thing, we had discussed in the past was if we decide to make a change, like what we're discussing now, that before we got too far down the road, that we would, bring this to the town managers and the select board's attention.
Yeah.
Because at this point, they don't know anything about it. They don't even know about the issue really.
Right.
Other to the extent that the town manager should, because she was CC'd on our correspondence with the town attorney. But,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that the planning board accept the first draft of the sample establishment of municipal planning board of ordinance as presented by George.
All right, thank you. So we got a motion? And a second? Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? Thank you very much, George, for putting this together.
all I did was photocopy it. I didn't do.
I appreciate it, that's for sure. Because it's an important thing, you know, it was one of, I think it's one of those things that has just kind of, I don't know, been assumed that it was taken care of or
Well,
something.
didn't we all?
So with that in mind, let's vote on this. So we're gonna, the vote to accept this package. Thank you, George. So all those in favor, so Pete? Yes. George?
Yes.
Yeah, Craig?
Yes.
Me, 4 in favor, none opposed?
So do you want me to go ahead and insert this? A couple of sentences into the main body and then.
Would you
Provide
add
it
it
on-
on, and let's say, number 5, like that, or I don't know? How would you do that? You're doing the top.
Or I was, one place we could put it is, and I only say this because I looked at how some other towns did it, that. One of the towns that uses this exact same thing is the town of Lubec.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where they put that language was after, as part of number 1.
Oh, yeah. It looks lonely up there, number 1. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, as Lubec goes, Belgrade goes.
that's right. Isn't that a saying?
So I'll do that, and if I get it done in time, I'll get it to you, Hans. Put back on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I can check off that. Next up is to approve the minutes from February 2nd. Everybody have the minutes? There, and thank you, Caitlin, for doing these. They always look so good. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review these? Yeah, okay. Great. What edits are needed on this? Anybody have anything? But nothing, Pete, George?
I have a few, in-person attendees, the question marks for after Kara Moody. She was from Stantex Consulting Engineers, STANTEX Consulting Engineers. I have no idea who Leslie was. So I can't help with those question marks. Under new business and the pre-application discussion with Summit Ridge, at the end of the first paragraph, obviously there's some spacing issues that needs to be.
I think we're on the wrong,
Yeah, we got it different.
we're on the.
But I think you're on the right one, because
No.
one I have says February 2nd, 2023, but it's.
Oh,
different
okay,
content.
I printed mine off the website,
Yeah,
so,
this is, I'm not sure what this is.
so yours don't have the formatting problems.
No, and different content.
No, let me go to the
So-
website. This is totally, it's got the date right, but.
Yeah, but that's wrong. Because we did not.
Yeah, this was, we didn't do.
We did not.
Yeah.
So when I was reading it, I was like, yeah. So,
This was a test.
because I was like, we did not do this at this time. We did this in maybe, was it January?
Yeah, back.
Yeah,
Maybe January.
Yeah.
Or something. So. Not, but what you were reading, that was the correct stuff, because that was what we saw last meeting. The lady from Stantec and, you know. all
Right.
that. So,
and the solar farm people.
yes. So. Pardon me, you're right back, Hans would be back on, I'm thinking maybe with minutes.
Do you know the contractor here, Mark Purvis? Do you know of him?
He looks kind of familiar.
Well, he looks familiar, and I think he may put ads in like some posh place like, Down East Magazine or someplace like that.
Maybe.
I'm not positive, but.
So the contractor gets it.
Yeah, his name is very familiar and I just can't, I mean, I don't know squat about Blue Hill, but his name is very familiar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I can't figure out why. I thought maybe I'd seen an ad for his company or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of money down there,
What's that?
a lot of money on there, Blue Hill and.
I had a friend in college who had family down there, you know, year round lobstermen and stuff.
Oh.
And they used to refer to the people from the summer people as strap hangers because they spent the rest of the year hanging from a strap in a subway. I always thought that was pretty funny.
But when I used to go through Nova Scotia as a kid, back in the 50s. And they used to, I used to go from Boston up there, you know, for the summer, 2 months, they used to call it slab towners back then.
Oh, it's all right.
And I couldn't kind of figure out why, but the highways down here were cement slab, remember?
Oh, yeah,
Cement versus asphalt, then they change over to all asphalt.
all right.
But so the Canadians coming down, this is Nova Scotia, they, you know, they used to bring the Christmas trees down, they drive down, and they come down these, you know, cement highway. And the sound was driving you nuts after a while, you know?
Yeah, we're dating ourselves,
Yeah.
talking about concrete highways.
Why did they change?
Here's one. I need to- that's small.
He can keep that, he's gonna get more.
What was wrong? cement type pipe, they didn't stand up too well.
I
I don't know.
I don't really know. I mean, in more southern climates, I'm not really sure. I would think the cost from the breakup from frost heaving would be
Yeah.
a real problem. I mean, asphalt, I mean, asphalt's expensive, real expensive now, but it's always been cheaper than concrete.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all that has been.
Yeah.
Well, they had more money back then, I guess, to spend. Yeah. Oh, the prices of slabs and all that, foundations have gone up tremendous.
Everything, just everything across the whole. board.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
See, on a slab, what's concrete? You price it out per square or something like that, and a square basis,
A yard,
a yard.
Yeah.
A yard.
but I don't know, I haven't priced anything in so long.
I remember it used to be about less than $100 for sure, back a number of years ago. And now it's up to, some of it about almost $1,000.
I have no idea.
I don't know, I heard that down at the Prize Pond, I don't know, the guys are bullshit me tell you or what, but they. Good believe.
It's a lot of,
You are attracted to your neighbor there. You know,
Barry,
there,
he knows everything.
is he still doing construction?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the same, right?
Yeah,
All right, this is more like it.
now we're literally on the same page.
We are, yeah. Yeah, I was reading this from online or.
Maybe everybody should look at it again.
Can't be. I meant the lapses, but it can't be like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is more like it.
I remember reading this on my email.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, you know, that night, but I had a question. It says, a view shot analysis showed that there will be no visibility from the lake on nearby major roadways. So what if you're on the opposite side, a camp over there? You know, looking out your front window, you should be able to see it, right?
You mean like in Rome or someplace like that, or?
This project is off of
Burton Woods,
Burton Woods, which is,
if I just said behind Wilson's R&R Auto, like.
yeah, on the left.
Kind of in that area.
Farm, right? Yeah, so if you're over at,
Like the rec
on
center.
Route 27, you know, and you're going by, right, so
Yeah,
you go down the lake and get into, Pinky Cove.
yep,
Oh, instead of going on, I think it's gonna be run out straight on that, you know.
Yep.
Long sandy berm or before and you go way out to the end, and you're kind of high. You're gonna be able to see all this stuff.
And she made that point. She said she went to Foster Point Road, which
Yeah.
is high, and that even from there. This is done virtually,
Mhm.
that it would not be, or minimally visible,
Minimum,
minimally.
yeah.
So we didn't have it, they didn't present any of this stuff to us.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, so we didn't have a opportunity, we didn't really question it or anything. They were just kind of presenting. They were more interested in the parts of the ordinance that clearly were game stoppers for them, like not being able to clear more than 10 acres. And they asked about, well, as is reported here, the I guess I don't know if it's a sales agreement or whatever agreement they have with the landowners. You know, it would go over a multiple property, lines, and whether or not that might be something that would be eligible for the setback from a property line, even though they would potentially own both sides of the property line, whether that would be potentially eligible for a waiver from that setback, because we were talking a lot about the need to get, that we don't have the authority to issue variances.
Right.
Only the appeals board does, particularly dimensional requirements.
The other thing I think is, if they bought these properties and they butted up against each other, they could just simply combine them into one lot, couldn't they? Then they wouldn't have to
Yeah.
worry about setbacks.
I don't think they're buying them, though, they're leasing them.
Yeah, they're leasing them, that's right.
In this case, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, long-term lease. But still, they'd have title right or interest for all those properties. I mean, that's a, you know, a decision yet way down the road, but, though we never got into the, you know, okay, show us, you know, prove it to us. That was sort of more of a statement on their part.
Yeah. I think they're trying to be reassuring. So. All right, so for edits, what do we have for edits going on? We know we have some little formatting issues or something in there. Like, for example, second line where it says, here, the total project would be 5 megawatts and spread across, and there's multiple spaces to approximately. So that, and then the next line down between has some wetland areas that will be, and then there's a huge space to impact it, so correcting that. Next, after that, it says a view shot. I think this should be a view shed, isn't it? Isn't that the right term? A view shed analysis?
I would think so.
Yeah, so please change shot to shed. And the next line down is big space between major and roadways.
The indentations are off.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
to Katie's defense, this may have occurred, she does a Word document and post it online, I convert to a PDF.
So it may be fine in the Word document.
Yeah, it may have been perfect
Yep,
before we started,
Right,
and then reformatting to the PDF.
yep, that's
Shifted things around.
definitely happened.
So she'll fix what she can,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
sure.
But probably we will archive it in the Word format.
Yeah, that's definitely happened to me. Plenty of times.
Absolutely. Other content, I don't have any other comments about other content. Anybody else? George?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I already mentioned Stantec's consulting engineers up in the in-person attendees, Kara Moody. On the last line of the first paragraph under the pre-application discussion, new business. It's that last line at the end, and a site lot permit, it's actually a site location law permit. So scratch out site lot, and site location is, each word is capitalized. So site location law permit. On the next page, on page 2, the first paragraph at the top, the planning first line. The planning board may be able to waive the property, and it should be property line setback. Let's see, third sentence in that same paragraph, dimensional ordinance requirements versus ordinances requirements. And I guess it should be a small o. And then lastly, for me, the third page, second paragraph under discussions of the CEO update, first line, the planning board rather than wants, I would use the word needs. So it reads, planning board needs to amend.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Thanks, George. Any other edits, comments? Rich, anything else?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks, Hans, for finding this for us. Appreciate that. So we have some suggested edits, so take a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2023 as amended.
And second,
Second.
thanks, Craig. So any more discussion? All those in favor, Pete?
I wasn't there.
Oh, thank you. That's right, you were not there. So we three were here
And
and
Rich.
Rich was there. That's
So I-
right.
I'll vote on that. And I
So,
vote,
okay, thank you. And then, so Rich votes yes, so George
Yes.
and Craig, and I do too, so that's 4 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. That was that. Next, CEO updates. We've got a minimum lot size ordinance online error.
Yes, but before we jump into that, I'd like to reference page 80 of the shoreline zoning under hazard tree definitions.
Page 80.
Yep. It is in my version. Down towards the end of where it's defining hazard trees, it says hazard trees also include those trees that pose a serious threat and imminent risk to bank stability. How do we define bank? Is that strictly water's edge, or does it apply to a blowover tree in the middle of somebody's yard or within falling distance of the house?
I'd say it'd have to be at the water's edge, or at least close enough to the water's edge that if it did fall, it'd take out the roots to the water's edge.
So you're talking about embankment and not
Yeah,
waterfront embankment versus a bank could be, you know, root ball, because windstorms, you get trees that start to lean, their root balls picking up the soil. They're
Yeah.
leaning towards a structure or a dangerous place, and they're not covered under this definition.
Well, I would think bank stability would be both on the water's edge and if somebody had some sort of retaining stuff going on near the house and there's a bank or a sharp bank. I mean,
Or
if
even-
it's starting to lean.
there isn't anything. I was gonna say, there isn't anything further in the definition that would include that type of thing.
No, I mean, if it's in the middle of somebody's yard, and, you know, I've seen them where it happens over a period of years, every year it goes a little further and further. And, you know, they're away from them and embankment, but they are in the yard and the root ball is
Mhm.
getting larger.
Well, I would think, wouldn't the next line down, a target is the area where personal injury or property damage could occur?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it cover it?
The target
Yes.
is a fighting target. Targets include.
But it's also saying up here is structural defect, formation,
That's-
defects and disease and. I mean,
Would the root ball be a structural defect?
yeah, it's starting to pop out of the ground.
Yes, and leaning towards, you know, what? Cars or house
House and parking areas.
where
and-
people walk.
Yeah.
Lately, there's been a lot of, you know, with the ice. A lot of trees
Yeah,
are changing form and a lot of conversation about this. Especially, you know, with mud season coming.
Yeah.
Some of these leaning trees are gonna be more hazardous than they are now.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
mean,
sure
if it's out in the woods somewhere, it's not a hazard, but
That's threat to
but
drives. I mean, this says driveways.
yeah, no, it's leaning over somebody's parking lot or.
And I wish CMP would get involved, because there's a lot over power lines, but they don't do anything until it's an issue.
Does that sound correct to you, Rich?
it did. Say that again, George?
Well, if you
Yeah.
had a tree that was partially over, you know, and the root ball was starting to come out of the ground and it's leaning over somebody's driveway or their parking area or
Yeah.
their walkway.
Even if it's leaning over the lawn itself, I would say that that's a hazard tree if it's the root balls start to come out. If, as you said, George, if it happens to be a tree in the middle of the woods, I wouldn't call that a hazard at all. Or,
No.
I don't know this, but there's a part of this definition that talks about a target is the area where personal injury or property damage could occur if the tree or part of it fails. To me, that's the linchpin of the whole thing.
Yeah, and targets include roads, driveways, parking areas, structures, campsites, other developed areas where people frequently gather and linger.
Yeah, so-
And
I would have- Go ahead,
talk to
Chris.
an arborist, they have a degree that they consider hazardous. They can't, a tree can't be, an arborist has a certain degree of a lien. And that makes that tree hazardous if it's beyond
So
that.
this threshold amount.
There's a threshold.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Mm.
All right.
Fun.
The bottom line, to me is that, what Hans has described is something that he can and should probably let them cut the tree down. Might have to,
Well, yeah.
if that's the only tree, or, you know, they don't meet the point system there, they put another tree in.
Yeah, I defer to safety, you know. We don't want to be on the hook for saying, no, you can't cut that tree, it's only it's hurt,
Right,
you know.
right.
So I always just say, look, safety says, cut it,
Yeah, number one, safety is number one.
and then we'll address the other situations.
You're the only guy in the book, you know.
No, you just don't gotta.
Yeah, no, that's why he's bringing these up with us. He's no fool, he's sharing the liability.
That's right.
You do what's wanted.
Good discussion.
And I don't see why the towns should take more aggressive approach to that. Sure, let them, these pine trees are getting to be 100 years old, they're over 100 feet tall. They snap off, just where I'm working, you drive down that road, you see twisted up broken pine trees the whole way down through there. And people have a right to build on their properties, so why not take more aggressive approach on saying, yeah, sure, cut that down, but you got some space over there, why don't you plant a couple more trees over here? 5 feet tall, they gotta live 5 years.
And a great example is, out up there in Chester Twain. Casey just approved the old cabin, if they wanna rebuild the porch and whatnot, they cut out some trees for septic purposes, and it's opened up a lot. And there's no new growth underneath, because the light was blocked out. So, like you're saying, if you call out a few of these big ones and let some light in, you can have new growth before it becomes a big issue where a windstorm takes over, knocks over all the old trees.
Yeah.
It also depends if the point system too, if this pushes them so they're over the limit and the open space is over the limit, and that's when you take more of an aggressive approach, but if it's just a tree and they got plenty of others and they're all under the limits, and you know, they should just be able to cut the tree without an issue. But if they're close to that limit and close to the point system and the thing's still hazardous, then just, yeah, sure.
Say,
Put some trees over here where they're gonna be safer and,
we're not saying stuff, yeah.
you know,
It's a good point. Very good point.
because, you know. Trying to save these trees that are gonna fall down on people, really. Telling you that you can't cut those, seems to me, puts the towns at a wicked liability, but. I guess there isn't, but
Well, there is, especially
Yeah.
in the parks.
And one of my
Yes.
thoughts is that, if something is, well, put it this way, we can't take the position that every tree that's within striking distance of a house is a hazard, or we wouldn't have any trees along the shoreline. So there's a middle ground there as to is it truly hazardous or, I'm not sure I'd take the position that simply because it's an older tree and a big tree, it's a hazard tree, but I know there's an issue of Hans telling somebody they can't cut that tree down because it's not a hazard. And then a storm comes through and it falls on the house or falls on the person, that it's, I understand those decisions.
And you gotta inspect it well, because you look at the bark. You look at the bark and you see this little fine sawdust, well, that big old pine tree that's been there 100 years full of ants.
Yeah.
Right there makes it a hazard tree.
It's where the
It's
ink,
gonna go.
It's just a matter of time.
All right,
You know,
moving on, y'all have some staple pages.
Yep.
On the top, there's one that says 3191 ordinance.
Yep.
All right, this is minimum lot size ordinance back in 1991. All right, let's see. Then part B, it says that setbacks from right of ways would be 25 feet or 2 feet per foot of structure height. All right. That's what it was. Moving on. Next page. Town meeting draft 2010. This was the result. Section B was rephrased. But basically the intent was the same. Okay, all agreement? Next page is a copy of the town article after the meeting, which doesn't mention this at all. And then the last page is the ordinance as it's posted on our website. We'll see part B doesn't read quite as eloquent as it should. The greater of the following dimensions, comma, blank horizontal distance between the closest point of any structure and the near limit of the right of way of any public road, privately owned road, or right of way used in common with others, or 2 feet distance from center line of travel per 1 foot of structure height. So 25 feet was left out. And this is what was posted on our website. We have a case where there's a structure that is half in shoreline zone and half out, and half that is out of shoreline zone is within 21 feet of the nearest edge. Closest one. The nearest right away.
So this was the draft in 2010. And it's your understanding, this is what went to the voters?
Mhm.
Do we have the correct version on the website?
Got no-
I mean, as you,
The answer is no, because what's on the website is
yeah,
this page.
Yeah.
so where is the correct version?
Oh, no, I mean, the copy I have has it in there, and I inherited that from Richard, so.
I wonder what I have.
And I was looking for a minimum lot size ordinance. I couldn't find one.
That's that green photo right there.
I mean, I was given this back in 2015 when I joined the board. And on page 4. Page numbers are different. Of course they were on page 6. Let's try that.
Yes, I'm sorry, it is page 6 on that.
Mine has 25 feet in it.
Excellent.
So somehow, this
And
version, I believe, I'm just guessing. Chain of events got changed. Something got uploaded with a typo. We changed it in our system, but the website never got updated to the correction.
I'm guessing that, I mean, I'm just shocked at the way the town keeps track of its public records. I mean, we've gone through this with the commercial development review ordinance. At one point last summer, I got a call from Mary, they couldn't find the version that, we had provided to the select board. And that the select board approved. And, you know, you're coming to me for that? I mean, give me a break, you know, but, it looks to me like the town has the right version, the version that was approved by the voters. It's just a matter of posting the right version to the website.
Right.
So for 13 years, this has been on the website, people have made decisions, I got two. Basically encroachments that I have to forget, because this is the information I provided to our citizens.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good. But at the same time, I'm not thinking that every decision was wrong. I mean, if they came to the CEO and the CEO had what you have, which is the same as what George has,
If we had a conversation.
if you had a
But if
conversation,
they are
correct,
hiring a contractor and they're referencing our online information,
correct.
they followed the rules as they were presented.
There is a risk that there is some,
Like I said, I only got two that I'm aware of, but if this argument comes up, we have to kind of do it to it.
yeah, exactly, you know. So let's do a couple, we have to do probably a couple things. One, the minimum lot size ordinance. One that you have, which is marked, I can see it's there, it says, revised in March 19, 2010. That one seems to be correct. You have the correct one, but it sounds like what's on the town website is not.
The cover is the same cover. I mean, everything.
I can't talk to the cover.
Yeah, and even this, you know, they're supposed to be stamped by the town clerk and signed by the town clerk, and that wasn't done.
Right,
I mean, how should,
I know. So there's room for improvement.
yeah. You're a kid for money.
And we need to go in that direction, make sure that we do have the stamp, that there is the signature of the town clerk on it, that we all have the same updated one, that electronic version is then posted to the website. That's what has to happen. I don't know what happens with the people's, how they manage files, and I can't speak to what they've done in the past. I just know what we need to get to. And quite frankly, if we need to take yours, run it through a scanner, page by page, and post that, then that's what has to happen. Because
I mean, Mary provided this to me when I joined the board. So if she could find it in 2015, I'm guessing Mary, if anybody can find it, Mary can find it.
Well, she's been looking, she can't find even, you know, the warrant articles to update it.
Yeah.
So,
she's
you
been,
know, with the other formatting issues, she's been in contact with you about this.
yeah,
I would like to see Katie run through it, clean it all up, make changes that you'll want to provide, and make it another official stamp.
it would have to be compared to whatever's in front of you. Right, because any changes from that means we've got to go to the voters.
Yeah, right.
At the 25 foot, you feel we can just correct that and move forward?
On the website.
On website, yeah, I
Right,
mean,
because that's what we have.
yeah, I mean, that's not a, as far as I can tell, that's not a change. That's just, you know, that's in some hardcover versions, and just it's the version on the website is inaccurate.
George, is your copy of the ordinance dated March 19th, 2010?
Yes.
Okay,
Mine is too.
Oh, what you have, Rich?
yeah, that's what I've got, and it's got the same language that you had.
And that's the same one you have.
It is.
So I would say that is the record ordinance.
Oddly enough, we have hard copies printed, but can't find one on the computer. that has
Can't find an
25.
original, yeah.
I mean, can't find it. All of them have the white. So,
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, you know,
There's some
again,
kind of systemic problem there.
yeah, how things were filed electronically and who did what, we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but
so we'll correct that part. And, forward.
Yeah. It's good that you found that.
Oh, it was embarrassing. I was writing a long letter. Referencing ordinance, page, paragraph, and it occurred to me that the formatting is different with the online version. They're not going to see the same page number. I was thinking page number. And I found that omission instead.
Well, all we
I'm
can,
glad I checked it,
yeah,
because we've been going back and forth on this one for a long time.
yeah. It's unfortunate.
the only other thing, and this, I'm not trying to solve the problem, but there might be a backup of electronic records somewhere. And through the IT service that we subscribe to, and whoever that does, they've got to have backup somewhere. So maybe there'd be a way to go back to around March of 2010 tapes, backup tapes, quite likely, and search for it.
I mean, if, you know, well, the way things work is if Mary can't find something, you're in sad shape.
Yep.
Well, and that's concerning, you know, I included this, the warrant articles. If it's not in here, it's not supposed to happen.
Right.
Right, 'cause that's what went to the voters.
So does it need to go again? As a,
I don't know.
Wait a minute, what was that, Hans? I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
if it's not in these warrant articles, it's not supposed to happen.
Well, we have it in the warrant article.
No,
In the summary, what we've talked about, I mean, the first thing about the 25-foot thing is pretty minor. That's not a very substantive change, in my opinion. The more substantive thing was the reference to the 200-foot frontage on the road.
So if this is, you know, the warrant article that Mary found, and this was approved by the voters, and there should be a record of that. I mean, they found the voting record for that 1970s establishment of the planning board. The fact that it doesn't, you know, make any specific reference to any particular change, it would seem to me that's irrelevant. The whole, you know, that draft, that 2010 draft was approved in that, you know, as a total package.
Right.
And so I would think we'd be fine in that regard. I think it's just a matter of getting the right copy on the website.
okay.
And that's my
Are
take.
you and Mary on the same page?
When is Mary and me, are we on the same page
With making the correction?
on the
Right.
website?
Yes.
Well, our discussion tonight is the most complete that we've had. My response in the email was that I had no additional records at my disposal
Okay.
to talk about what this was.
One thing I would not do is just make that one change, because there may be other changes that were made in 2010 that are also not reflected on that copy that you haven't, that's on the website, that you haven't stumbled across yet.
Right,
So I would take one of the correct hard versions, if nothing else. If you can't find the electronic original,
Just compare.
I would turn that into a PDF and put that on the website.
yep, and there should be a comparison of the two.
Yeah, and go through and make a,
And one example was what you talked about, I think, Hans, which was this reference in the summary of the warrant article that went to the voters, which has to do with the configuration requirements of house lots that do not have a 200-foot frontage on the road. So that thing, I'm not sure where that is.
I don't have that page.
It's like page maybe Because it might be like page 8, maybe. I was looking for it. And it's after page 6. And the thing that we did with that one. I don't really remember doing it, but I remember seeing it afterwards. Is if you don't have 200 feet of road frontage, there was a way to inscribe a circle
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in the back corner
Yeah.
or something. And
It's been around 5 times quick.
it's supposed to mean some.
How like the moon.
I don't know.
Yeah, draw a circle at 75 feet radius, whatever.
Yeah. So that was an attempt to try to come up with something where some house lots did not have 200 feet of road frontage.
Peter, were you on the board when those amendments were made?
Yes.
And did the planning board make those or did Gary? I mean, propose them?
I don't remember.
Okay, I was just curious, doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
been a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
Yeah, a little while ago. Okay. I only asked because the code enforcement officer actually administers that ordinance, not us.
That's a good point too, yeah. And that may be why I'm not remembering much about it, because maybe there was stuff that happened within that. You know,
Yeah.
code enforcement looking at.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I was just a matter of curiosity. I know when I've talked to Mary before, I think it was in the context of trying to find, what was it? I was trying to find, I can't remember now even what it was she was trying to find, but she made a comment that a lot of things got misplaced and lost in the move from the old town office.
Yes,
And apparently it wasn't just hard copies, it was electronic stuff too.
oh, really? We would have stopped the report. No, not yet. Are there any other CEO updates?
No, we can put with that.
Okay. All right,
That's something I could-
if we are done with that, then Hans, I think we've completed the agenda, so, motion to adjourn,
Okay, go adjourn.
seconded? Somebody? All right, all those in favor, so Pete?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Yeah, Craig, me too, we're adjourned, you can stop recording.
Good night, Richard.
Yeah, good night. By the
Good
way,
night, Rich.
I'm not there because I don't feel well.
Yeah, I know, hope you feel better.
George,
Just a cold.
I hope so. George, if you need that black sled to get out to the site visit, let me know. I'll bring it along.
Okay. Yeah, I can jump in the back